What is the perfect lens to fit your personality? If you take the advice of Joel Meyerowitz, he talks about this idea that the best lens for a photographer is one that feels natural to them. And how do we find out, though, what lenses do feel natural to us? Where do we start with this? How's it? That question about, what is the perfect lens for me? I feel often we approach it from the wrong direction. We think about what is my own personality, and I'm going to try out different lenses to see what they're like. And if we go the other way and think about the personality of the lenses themselves, it gives us more tools to kind of think about what is the right lens choice. What is one that fits how I want to feel about being a photographer right now? And I first became more aware of this when I was starting to learn photography, that I was taking it seriously. That's when I was a late teenager, early 20s, and wanting to be in people's faces. I wanted to be brash and create what I felt were unusual, sort of wacky images. So the wide angle groups of lenses. And throughout this video, I'm just going to talk about wide angle and primes and things like that, by referring to the full frame format groupings with these. So I was working with my 24s, my 28s. Nothing too wide, because that's a whole different personality. And nothing too semi-wide, right? The 35s and what have you. But that 24, 28, it distorted the way that I saw the world, and it fitted perfectly. It was almost like that lens is the teenage version of myself. It wants to take in so much stuff that it can see much wider than our actual eyes, that it felt like, oh, I'm now seeing the world, not like all these fuddy-duddy old people, but like, us teens, we know the thing. You know what it's like, the arrogance of youth. So those wide-angle lenses, they had that personality of a teenager, of somebody who wanted to just kind of make their own rules and do things not the same way as all the adults. So if you want to try and get that sort of feeling into your photography, that you maybe want to distort the world, to challenge, expectations about how we're supposed to see things, then those wide angle lenses, those 28s, the 24s, they work perfectly. Ultra wide angle lenses, those fish eyes and the 17 millimeters and things of that nature, they have a completely different feel to the teenager who kind of wants to just be a little bit, play around the edges of expectation. But those ultra wides, they really get into this. They're like that weird person you see it at festivals over in the corner who's enjoyed themselves a little bit too much, that they've gone and experimented with another plane entirely of seeing the world. They have transcended things. And that ultra wide, it is taking things and really breaking them up, distorting things so they become unrecognizable. And you can use that if you want to convey some sort of really, sort of hardcore view of the world that is just almost psychedelic, surrealist in its feeling. On the other side of that spectrum is the introspective person, the person who is always drawn towards the quiet things, the minutiae. The minutiae, that's, I think, the word, of the world around us. These are the macro lenses that we go beyond into that inner space where we can't see. I find that they are very focused. They only want to think about one thing. They want to just hold on to the object that's in front of them, and everything else just disappears and is not part of the things that interest them. It's that insistence of focus, being into one place. So if you want to make that quietness, then those are great lenses. If you sit there and sometimes you just want to be connected with a tiny little thing, then macro lenses, what a wonderful way to just relax, to see the things that so many other people can't see. The very things that the brash teenage lenses, those wide angles, overlook completely, because you are being introspective. A cousin of the introspective is the person who sits in the corner there, doesn't really want to get involved, wants to have a bit of distance. I suppose you could say sort of socially a little bit, kind of, I don't want to be involved with all this kind of hullabaloo. And they are akin to the longer lenses, those long zooms, those long telephotos, where you can stand off at a distance, removed, away, not interfering, not having to be spoken to while you're photographing, while you're the observer, but not an influencer, not somebody who is, by their very presence, changing things and influencing the behavior of the subject that you're photographing, or the sitter. At this point in the video, have you got an idea about the sort of personality of a lens? Can you suggest some other personalities that might be attached to various kind of ranges of lenses? Let me know in the comments. I'd be dying to see what you guys come up with. As I have grown up and gotten a little bit older, I've found that my personality has changed. It's become more from the wide-angle teenagery kind of stuff, and then becoming a little bit more, let's say, formal through the 35mm, and then getting into these standard lenses, the traditional lens, the safe lens. I now photograph often on a 50mm. It doesn't have any wide expansiveness. It doesn't become introspective. It just has that personality of seeing the world in a normal fashion. It's a little bit tired. It wants to just relax and sit down in a nice comfy couch and just watch the world go by. Doesn't want to get up, doesn't want to change the TV, it's just sitting there, doing its thing. And I find that nice and comfortable for me. That occasionally, obviously, I want to go wide and things like that and revisit my teenage years, but mostly I just want to channel in with that lens where I'm sitting there kind of going, I know what I'm going to get. I know what it looks like. It's nothing too taxing. And it's like a pair of comfy slippers that I can put on. Now I'm sounding like I'm going to need a pipe and maybe like some Werther's Originals I'm going to sit and eat. But that's kind of like, that's where what is called standard lenses seem to feel like. Maybe that's why, when I was younger, that the teenager, that, wide angle thing really appealed to me, because it was so different from the boring staid 50mm. And then you get into the person who feels a little bit more confident, a little bit more, I want to connect with the thing that I'm photographing. And that's where a lens like these kind of mid telephotos, those 85s, the 105s, 135 lenses come in. That you can get into closeness. You can get and start to connect with the subject. To really feel, it seems like an odd thing to say that when you have a slightly longer lens that it helps you connect with something, but I find that it does. It's like a personality of somebody who is a socialite, that they walk around and they just, they're at a party and like, I find you interesting, and they go over and they talk to that person. And they go, wow, tell me all about you. That's what those lenses are doing. They're allowing you to bring that person closer, or the thing to you closer, and still have all that benefits of slightly being, aloof, right? But at the same time, being able to interact with the person. Thinking about their personalities. Goes through all of the wide range of lenses these days, that so many of them get touted as an idea for a specific thing, that that they wide angles are for landscapes and getting all the majesty of the view into the frame, and then longer lenses are for compression when you're doing a portrait. But think about the personalities. I hope that it's kickstarted in your mind how you can assign a personality to a certain lens, and then it makes it so much easier to use that lens to fit the personality of yourself and what you're trying to achieve with the photograph. To find out more about how Joel Meyerowitz creates his awesome photographs, click this video over here. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.